Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones take us into this week in League de Nutz as I welcome you aboard right here on the 954sports.com YouTube channel. Hopefully we're up and going as I just keep on continuing to relearn the streaming software since I did the show already a couple of years ago. So I'm just monitoring, as they say right now, to make sure I'm up and going. And hopefully I am as we get into Week 3. It's the first This Week in League de Nutz show I've done. So it's technically Week 1 for the show, but Week 3 in the NFL. Hard to believe that we are just, about a month in almost, right? After this week, it'll be more than a half month in. So the season does move quick. Almost a quarter of the way, or at least 20% of the way into the NFL season. Before you know it, we'll be hitting the bye week. Be having the games in London. I was thinking of that the other day. We'll be having hiccups in the lineup. I've already dealt with a few. We'll be dealing with the waiver wire, the battle of the waiver wire. All that goes on. I think we're up and going. There we go. With the fun on the waiver wire. And someone I think was smashed the other day. I've said this before. The waiver wire reminds me of Walmart, right? Exactly right. The stampede of folks, like 11:58 p.m. on Thanksgiving night, the eve of Black Friday. You just see everybody like head into the turnstiles at once. That's like the waiver wire. The buzzards all buzz around and want to get their meal all at once. So I make adjustments on the fly. Cheers to you. Week 3 is here. We're going to run it down. Tell you about Week 2. It's in the books. Give you the Meltzy winner. Right now, 6-0. As it's sort of kind of streaming on the Amazon. They had problems and it's frozen right now. It's been frozen. There we go. 6-0. It looks like it was a Steelers touchdown run. I'm thinking Harris. It was. Okay, so there you go. 7-0. Week 3 is officially underway. League de Nutz is underway. We have things moving. We have things shaking. We have things baking. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good. A couple teams remain undefeated. Just through Week 2, we have 2. AB's Painted Helmet and the Delray Pounders. Both teams, respectively, over 200 points apiece. Delray 229, AB's 211. We'll start with the higher of the two, and that was the Delray Pounders who drop kicked yours truly, the Nutztown Destroyers, winning their contest 229 to 109. There you go. I got the picket fence. More on the picket fence later. 1-1 on the season for me. Manella's boys, the Pounders, starting things off in their fantasy football history and League de Nutz history at 2-0. Does it get better than this? We'll find out about a week from now. But it's not all sunshines and rainbows. I'll tell you that much, rookie. So how did the Delray Pounders get it done? With a little of this, a little of that, and lots of that. The quarterback, Lamar Jackson. What a game last week. Unbelievable. In that Miami Ravens game, which was a wild one, that the Ravens would eventually lose 42-38. Talk about Tua later. But Jackson was just awesome. Brilliant. 4 touchdown passes to go along, the 4 total touchdowns to go along with 318 yards, good for 57 points. Too much. Jackson, not enough Mahomes for me. Also, the intangibles. I always talk about the intangibles being the defense, the defensive player, and the kicker. Look to the right. The Buccaneers defense, 26 points. In the 2010 win over New Orleans, that one was close. Defensive matchup until late. Brady took over in the 4th, and the Bucs put it away. Touchdown, 3 INTs, 2 fumble recoveries. Just a terrific, terrific day for the Bucs defense, then the kicker. There you go. There's that defense. Let me use that picket fence later, as I alluded to it before. This guy, okay. He is in Las Vegas now, so he's a Cowboy. Was a Southern Cowboy at Clemson. Great kicker. It's Daniel Carlson. 3 for 3 on the field goals. 13 points. A couple of point extra attempts. 2 for 2. And then you had Roquan. He's been snubbed from the Pro Bowl last couple of years. He's a Pro Bowler, no doubt. A fabulous, fabulous football player. Likes to flex. 25 years old. 9 total tackles last week. So the intangibles, along with this dude, you can watch the highlights all day with Lamar, was good enough for the Delray Pounders to get into week 3 undefeated. As for Nutz, well, not enough. I alluded to before of this, Mahomes. Not enough of this, Kelsey. Certainly not enough of Judy, who is a little bit duty. Not his fault. Suffered an early injury in that Broncos game last week, so he had to leave. But Mahomes, Kelsey, and Judy, they combined for 124 in week 1 for my Destroyers, and they scored 224 points in victory last week. The trio, about half that production, a little less, 61. So I didn't get the outstanding trio coming through for me. Delray next week will look to keep it going. And again, they'll see if life is just butterflies, right? Something like that. They'll take on Dingstown, Nutztown Destroyers. My squad will battle Yonkers Shotgunners FJB. Let's move on and talk about getting hammered. Well, not necessarily in that context. More so like when Forrest Gump decided to run across America. Does look like him, right? Loopy's Legends. Hammered by AB's painted helmet, 211-126. AB's 2-0. Loopy's 1-1 on the season. Enough of him. Double-fisted with the hammers. He is quick. Wonder how he would do in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. I bet you'd do well for some reason. I wonder how the hot dog eating contestants would do in the hammering contest. Maybe we'll talk about that again. Probably not. Anyway, half of AB's 108 points came from the wide receivers. Well, what do you think's going to happen? This is League to Nuts, isn't it? It's all about the wide receivers. Can you dig it? Yes, you can. This guy right here. He's got all the moves. And last week, he was muy fabuloso. Diggs, 12 grabs, 148 yards, 3 touchdowns, that old hat trick. To go along with his partner in crime right here with perhaps the best name in the NFL, Amon-Ra St. John. You got to say it all at once. Amon-Ra St. John. Boom. He's got moves as well, and he was also terrific last week. All right. 9 receptions, 116, 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, for the other guys, well, Juju, Hollywood Brown combined for 17. They were more duds than studs, as they couldn't hang with Diggs and St. John, as it was the victory for ABs. Loopies has to lick their wounds. Only receiver to break the 20-point barrier for Loopies was Mark Andrews, the outstanding wide receiver, 9 catches, 104 yards, touchdown grab in that loss to the Dolphins for the Baltimore Ravens. Loopies will have Stanford's Those Nuts, SDN against Dax Picks for ABs. They'll look to keep it going. Speaking of Stanford's Those Nuts, SDN, as we call them here at the studio for LDN, League to Nuts. Well, There was a wallop going on. Old Batman's style, the TV show. I used to watch it on Channel 11 back in the day. They were walloped by Smash U. Stanford Does Nuts 198-169. Got picket fences all over the joint. Told you I'd go back to it. Standings are littered with the 1-1 squads, borrowing it from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the victory means both teams are 500 essentially. The story in this one, I said it a minute ago, the wide receivers. Again, it's League to Nuts. What do you think? A couple of guys that may go in the Hall of Fame one day, right? A little brash to call it this early, but the guys in the middle, Cup, Super Bowl MVP, Hill, fabulous MVP material in any big game or for a season. Look at the numbers last week. The combined numbers, 88-69 for the receivers on the right compared to the left. 19-point difference. Do the math. 29-point win. And that's really the difference there in the ball game. As it was Smash U, again, getting the victory over Black Knight alum Stanford Does Nuts. So, you look at that receiver there at the bottom, right? Allen Robinson. He's kind of a juggernaut or a guy that's been a little bit of a nemesis. Hey, Rob, struggling thus far on the season. 5 receptions, had a touchdown last week, 1 for the season, 65 yards. I know that Yonkers Shotgunners, FJB, they had a thing with A-Rob for a bit. On his squad for a couple of years, on and off, didn't produce. Threatened to trade him. In fact, Yonkers is threatening to trade their whole team. There's a word on the street, at least in the email thread. Want to do business with Yonkers? Hey, that's up to you, man. Let's get back to A-Rob. Got some decisions to make for Stanford's Does Nuts, because it's not as clear-cut as this guy who just looks great in color. Looks great in black and white. He's an artist. You get Tyreek Hill, you're plugging him in. No question about that. Right? Talked about Diggs before, you plug him in. The kid St. Brown, you're plugging him in. A-Rob, I don't know. I might have to go for Dortch. Love the name. Or Sammy Journeyman. Things to think about for Stanford Does Nuts. Maybe things to make you say or something like that. Things that make you say Well, we shall see. We shall see what comes up in week number 3 for these two squads who will look to continue on, and will do so as well. And by the way, let me look at my notes here. Smash will play Polk, and Stanford Does Nuts will play Loopies in week 3. We'll talk more about week 3 in a moment. I'll give you my predictions, but let's carry on to this game right here. Polk High School, 2-time champ, limping along right now. Polk loses to Dax Picks by almost a century mark, right? 98, 110 to 202. Polk won, Dax 1-1. I said Polk is defeated at 0-2. Dax, who are they led by? Talk about dynamic football players on the Buffalo Bills. We highlighted Diggs. He can dance. He needs someone to throw him the ball. This guy's colorful too. How do you do? Yes, I do salute you, Josh Allen. 42 points. Difference right there, the quarterbacks. Don't have to be a genius. I never said I was one. Far from it. 42-12. Russell Wilson, kind of, sort of, struggling. Allen averaging 39 points per game last week. 26 at 38, 317. No turnovers, 4 touchdowns. Russell, 14 at 31, 219, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Wilson, with the dozen points last week, continues to play very mediocre football, averaging 18 thus far. New team in Denver. They did win 16-9. He is living in this $25 million palace. Inquiring minds wanted to know. Inquiring minds wanted to find out. They did. They shared. Look at that. You can play basketball in there, probably get lost on your own land. Probably has a swimming pool, home theater. Looks fun. Looks fun. But he'd rather win football games. And last week, he didn't do so well. Again, struggling a little bit. Meanwhile, Aaron Jones, top pick for Dak's picks in the draft this year. Their first round selection, looking every bit of one. 130 plus, 2 touchdowns, 36 points. Packers win. Dak's picks wins. Good victory for the rookie team in League de Nutz. As Dax will take on ABs. Polk will look to rebound, and Woe Bundy their way into the win column for the first time this season, taking on ABs next week. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Polk will take Smash, and Dax will take on ABs. Okay. These guys right here battled last week. This was, for all intents and purposes, the Melty Bowl. Well, it was. Yonkers now 0-2, like Polk, falling to Keldar as part of that picket fence crew, 1-1. 120 to 108. And in Philadelphia, they were doing the soar or fly eagle fly, whatever it is. Maybe that's a 6-shooter. Jalen Hurts is great. Combined with Devonta Smith for 54 points, but it wasn't enough. Because on the other side of things, Keldar got some consistency throughout his lineup. Not one player except for Hurts on Yonkers' squad went over 20 points. He's averaging 36 a game. So the quarterback, not the problem. He needs more depth and playmakers. Devontae Adams really the only other one so far that's showing up. And I said, Yonkers, you want to do some business. He's got his whole team in a fire sale in week 3. Keldar, meanwhile, got the job done with the guy who does the icky shuffle. Love it. T. Higgins, 6'4", ran his 40 time at the combine in 4.54 seconds, averaging 12 points a game. 3rd round pick for Keldar. In real life, came out of Clemson as a 2nd round pick 2 years ago. 6 catches, 71 yards, a touchdown grab against Dallas. 19 points. That's a good Sunday, and it's a good guy you can bet you'll get some consistency out of. So a good move there by Keldar. This is a rising star. I love the 6'4" wide receivers who don't put guns in their waistband. Plaxico. But that style of wide receiver that you can spread out, has enough speed to beat you deep, and you can throw those fades in the end zone. My kind of guy. So good job for T. Higgins and Keldar. Yonkers will take on again. Yours truly this weekend, Keldar squares off against the fantastic Mr. Fox. Speaking of Mr. Fox, wrap it up with the game that nearly hit double figures by both opponents and was the closest in the end. 194-187. Fox squeaks by Dingstown. Both teams 1-1. All right, picket fence. I'm abusing the heck out of that one, but I'll say it again, okay? Might say it one more time. I'm just warning you. How'd they get it done? Well, the opposing quarterback for Lamar Jackson, I told you how well he played. You know how well this guy plays. Might as well call him G-O-D here in the M-I-A. Tua. How good was he? 36 of 50. 469 yards. 6 touchdowns. Helped the Fox to the win. That was really, really the difference because Herbert, for San Diego, he's terrific as well. He had 34 points, banged up, though, has a rib injury, so that's something Dingstown is going to have to monitor. Maybe scour that waiver wire, look for some backup depth at quarterback. I like that kid. 33 of 48, 3 touchdowns, 334 yards, but not enough. So the quarterback was the difference. Tua, Tony Manero. Yeah, kind of. Not bad, but no one beats John Travolta. He tries. They love him here in South Florida, I will tell you that much. That's for certain. Cortland Sutton, also big for the Fox last week. Mike Williams, Sutton 32, Williams 37. This is a heavyweight matchup, blow by blow. This one was what you'd expect playoff time from these two teams. So for those about to rock, we salute you. Gladiator showdown last week. Also, Waddle, 53 points, 11 grabs, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns. Bateman, 37 points for the Baltimore Ravens. Wouldn't you know it that I just clicked on the Amazon? Of course, it's stalled. Oh, okay. 13-7 is the score right now. Late in the second half for the Cleveland Browns over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, Waddle and Hill. Hill is Hall of Fame bound. Ways to go, but he's certainly on that trajectory. But both of those guys kind of remind me of them. The Marx Brothers. You know, they're very special players, this electric. You can line them up inside, outside. They're interchangeable. They can go deep. They can make something happen out of the slot. Just sure-handed, blazing fast receivers that can do it all. And they're having a lot of fun down here in Miami. And Waddle is going to be a big, big factor for Dingstown as the year goes on. So again, both teams will look to keep it going. Well, Fox will look to keep it going in week 3, and Dingstown will look to get back on track. Everyone's going to look to keep it going one way or another into week 3. All right, so the Meltzy. Well, it came down to Monday night in Philadelphia for the team we know as Yonkers Shotgunners, FJB, against Keldar. He had a chance to win it. In the end, though, he had to settle for the Meltzy. It was a tough defeat for the Yonkers Shotgunners, and they get the splat in week 2. You don't get a win, but you do get a Meltzy. There you go. Congratulations to the Yonkers Shotgunners. They'll certainly look to improve and do better and not get splat upon in week 2. Enough. Okay. You know, shopping for that in preparation of the show could have been the funnest part in getting ready for the show, or even showing you. Okay. Shows you where I'm at. Anyway, let's wrap this up. So, how do you do week 3? Well, got a couple big games here. We start with ABs against Dak's Picks. You got yourself an 8-point favorite for ABs. This one's going to be close. 2-0 team. Putting it all on the line against the rookies, making some noise. I'll take Dak's Picks to cover. Second matchup. You got the Polk High Mighty Dodge 0-2 taking on the Smasher. Right? 1 point favorite for Polk, who's due. So due that I think he covers and wins. Stanford Doe's Nutz. 3-point underdogs to Loopy's Legends. Loop's looking to get on track. Rookie's still showing he wants to belong. I think this comes down to the wire. I'm going to take Stanford Doe's Nutz. How about that? To cover. To win? I didn't say that. To cover. It's about the spread. Yonkers Shotgunners against yours truly. I am now a 4-point underdog. I'm going to win, of course. Enough said. Keldar, big time. 27-point favorite over Mr. Fox. Fantastic, Mr. Fox, pardon. It's going to be close. Take Fantastic to cover. And finally, you get a 10-point favorite for Dingstown against the Delray Pounders. I think it's a welcome to this, welcome to League de Nuts. And next week, in this week in League de Nuts, I may be talking about a Pounders loss, but I think Dingstown covers. I think so. As we start hitting, the quarter portion, quarter portion of the season, 20%. There's usually no one left that's undefeated. So as we head into week 3, I think we get out with maybe one team that has a win, that is still undefeated. The rest of them are going to have a loss. And little by little, I think what happens in League to Nuts in 2022. That happens just about every year. We level off, and you get some teams that are a game above 500, game below 500. Probably 4 of the 6 teams fighting it out at the end, hovering around that mark, and then maybe a couple clear-cut winners get the bye. I don't know. Too early to predict. Anyway, it should be a lot of fun. I enjoyed this week in League to Nuts with you. Enjoy the second half of the Browns-Steelers game. By the way, the Steelers, 5.5-point dogs coming into this game. Right now, it looks like they deserve that. But I still think the Steelers cover. I think it's a field goal win by either team coming down to the wire. So enjoy the Browns, Steelers. Enjoy week 3. Set your lineups accordingly. Cross your fingers, cross your toes. Wish for the best, and good luck.